Hey friends, welcome to Living the KG Life, a pixie dust filled podcast. On today's episode, we are going to do a recap of week 1 of Mouse Madness 2022, and we're going to take a look at week 2 and see what we've got coming up. So let's jump right in and see what happened last week. Now, we had some standouts in terms of matchups and wins and big losses. So in our Pixar round, man, shout out to Toy Story absolutely dominating the game. They won 99% to 1. Poor Soul. If you haven't watched Soul yet, please go watch it. It's an incredible movie. Don't let these standings deter you. It's a fantastic movie, but I will say Toy Story is one of my all-time favorites. So if you haven't watched that in a long time, go check that one out as well. Now, with Toy Story winning across the board, that actually is going to lead us into some really interesting matchups next week where we'll actually have some of the Toy Story movies going up head to head. I don't know how that's going to go. That's going to be emotional for me, but we'll see what happens. In our live action division, this one was, I think, the most wild to watch. There were so many close calls. There were so many that flopped back and forth in terms of who was going to win. There were some that sat at 50-50 for like hours. So we were really watching those ones pretty close. The biggest surprise to me, I think, was Mighty Ducks and D2 Mighty Ducks, both out on the first round. Now, Mighty Ducks, the original, was the number 1 seed for the whole live action division, and it was taken out by Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins took out Mighty Ducks. They were the 16th seed. So they are coming into this next week with some serious momentum. So let's take a look at that. Next week, week 2, Mary Poppins in the live action division. Like I said, they've got a lot of momentum coming in here, but they're going up against a Titan, if you will, with Remember the Titans. So that's going to be a really interesting one to watch and see how that one goes. Like I mentioned before, in the Pixar division, we've got Toy Story 2 and 3 going up head to head. Now, Toy Story, like I said, is one of my favorite franchises all the way around in the Disney Pixar world. In Toy Story 2, we learn more about Woody's backstory, my guy. We learn more about him, but we also meet Jessie, who has become a really strong character across the Toy Story movies. We have one of the most gut-wrenching moments in animation history. If you've seen Toy Story 3, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, please go watch it, but make sure you have some tissues ready because it is an emotional ending to that movie. So let's see what happens there. Toy Story 2 or 3, which one do you have? In our post-2000s division, this is another tough one for me. We've got Tangled versus Moana. In the Disney princess realm, although it is technically a princess up against a chief, this is going to be a good head-to-head matchup. Both stories have such great adventure and discovery and women's empowerment, especially in Women's History Month for March. This is going to be a great matchup. These two are both fairly close in age. Tangled is from 2010, Moana is from 2016, but they both have such strong roots with their characters, with their fan bases, so I will be very curious to see who takes it in the post-2000s Tangled versus Moana matchup. And our last matchup that we're going to really take a look at and see what happens is in the Classics division. We've got another tough matchup with Cinderella and Aladdin, two gigantic Disney films that have carried through for years. Cinderella is from 1950 and Aladdin is from 1992. So again, those 90s kids, we've got these great movies that are really still holding strong, but both movies have characters that have really lived on through the years. Cinderella, it's Cinderella, right? Like Cinderella is always going to be is going to hold an incredible part of everybody's heart, especially lots of folks who love Disney princesses. And then Aladdin, every character in Aladdin was so great to watch. Aladdin, Princess Jasmine, Genie, Jafar, great villain. There are so many great characters that tell up that entire story. So let's see what happens there. Tell us who you have in the comments, Cinderella or Aladdin in the Classics. All right, I know a lot of you had a lot of questions about this tournament, how we put it together, how did that seeding happen? And We have the guy with all the answers. So let's make a quick call to Commissioner Jimmy and make him answer these questions himself. Ready? Let's give him a call. All right, Commissioner Jimmy, thank you so much for joining the show today. We have a lot of questions for you about this tournament and the seeding. So, can you talk to us a little bit about the seeding process and how did you make that happen?
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me, KG. These films are all great in their own right. So the seating selection was very difficult, to say the least. Our team took a lot of time to formulate the bracket, and we didn't just pull names out of a hat. We really leaned on the NCAA for advice on how to navigate this process, as they deal with the same tough decisions every year. But our ultimate goal was to create the most balanced and unbiased tournament possible. And we are confident that we did just that.
Now, it's interesting that you say the bracket being balanced because a lot of people want answers around Encanto Gate. Encanto was one of the films that most people selected to win it all, to take it all home. And a lot of people feel that Encanto is unfairly matched up against Frozen in the very first round. While some other movies, who we won't name, seem to have a clear trip to the Final Four. Can you elaborate on how you came to the decision on this matchup?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking this, KG. We want to get out in front of this and play the air because, look, at the end of the day, only one film can win the tournament. I have personally spoken at length to the Encanto front office and Mr. Mouse himself, and I have assured them that the seeding was done fairly and above board. My job as commissioner is to uphold the integrity of this tournament, and I take that responsibility very seriously. Everyone has their favorites, and those favorites are all going to be matched up together at some point. So all we can do is try our best to balance the bracket as best as we can.
Now, I'm going to take a quick hard pivot here. Do you have any comments on the rumors that are circulating about Gaston of Beauty and the Beast using performance-enhancing substances?
So I cannot comment as there is an ongoing investigation at this time. But what I will say is we are taking these accusations very seriously, and we will be transparent with our findings.
All right, Commish, give us the scoop. What's the front office talk like today? Were there any moves that surprised you? Big upsets, exciting wins? What are you guys talking about over there?
Absolutely. I think there's been a lot of talk today around the water cooler about the Mighty Ducks, the D2, the Mighty Ducks. Both of those films losing in the first round. We did not see that coming. We're very happy for the Mary Poppins team, as well as the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids team. Upsets happen every year. I know poor Hans is probably rolling over in his grave right now, but that's the nature of March Madness.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Jimmy, for joining us today. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring you back on for some more insights as we continue going on in this tournament. Thank all of your team for their hard work. Everybody has really been enjoying this tournament, so stick around. It's going to be great.
Thank you, KG. See you next round.
Now, we have a lot more to cover in these next few rounds. The part that is the most important is that you vote. As we saw last week, some serious upsets can happen. So a couple things to keep in mind and to remember. You do not have to be participating in the tournament. You do not have to have submitted a bracket to vote. So share with your friends, share it on your stories, share it with your network. Make sure you vote for each matchup because all of these points are going to be incredibly important as we get all the way through to the end. So if you have any questions, make sure you either DM us on Instagram at livingthekglife, or you can send us an email, livingthekglife@gmail.com. We are so excited to see what happens in week 2. Make sure you vote. Make sure you participate. This is going to be so fun. And stick around. It's going to be great.